Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday. No, it is Sunday, March 15th, 2026. I'm so used to saying Monday because I've been doing this on Monday nights for like 3 years. And so I'm still transitioning as well into the Sunday night broadcast. So, welcome to my garage. As you can see behind me, there's a lot of stuff going on. You know that I work on, everybody's normally here knows that I work on mostly classic Mustangs. I do some restoration work on Mustangs. I've done stuff on Camaros. I work on just about anything, it seems. I even do maintenance stuff. If you watch my channel at all, you know that I've probably done, I don't know, 50 to 100 brake videos. I do stuff like that as well. And also, I should point out that I have a secondary channel. If you don't already know, it's called Joe Daddy's Workshop. And that channel is about stuff like fixing your lawnmower or putting together a weed eater or, different things like that. Now, what I find interesting with that one, as I've said before, I walk a lot on my street, and my neighbors know that I walk, and they see me almost every day walking up and down my street. And one of my neighbors stopped me, and he said, "I watched one of your videos working on your house," and he said, "I want you to know it helped." And I'm like, "That's cool." So, my neighbors know that I do this stuff, and if I can help them out, I try to as well. But it's just kind of interesting how even somebody on my street, literally like three houses up, was watching one of my videos to help him fix something in his house. So if you haven't already seen those, there's a lot on there as well. But my primary focus on this channel, of course, is cars. And I'm trying to focus even more, to some extent, on the Mustang market, building Mustangs and that sort of thing. I will probably still do a video every so often doing maintenance on a vehicle if I find it interesting and valuable to other people. I also see that a lot of those videos actually get way more views than my Mustang videos. So, I guess it's to be expected. The number of people that are doing what I'm doing or want to see what I'm doing is kind of limited. But anybody who wants to work on their 2001 Ford Focus, they're going to look up my videos on how to do brakes on one of those. And it's all part of being on the channel or being on YouTube and trying to help people work on their stuff. So on this live stream, as I mentioned every time, I try to talk about classic cars, and my time bracket is like 55 to 1980 something, somewhere in that range. That's what I'm most familiar with. That's probably the most that time or most vehicles that I've worked on is in that time bracket, and that's where it is. I've also mentioned before that growing up, my dad had a junkyard, and so I've been around cars literally all my life. And it was an operational junkyard, 10 acres of cars, about 1,000 cars in the junkyard. And I spent all my life as a teenager pulling parts, building stuff with my brother, doing some racing, a variety of things. So this live stream is open to subjects like, hey, how do you do this or how do you do that? Like fixing something on a car, or if it's Mustang related or whatever. I encourage you to be involved. If you want to ask a question, by all means do so. And if you have a subject you want to talk about, I welcome that as well. We usually have a great group of people that show up in the chat box over there. And typically, if I can answer your question, I will. If I can't, a lot of times we get input from the group. And I think that's very beneficial for many, many people. Even if you're just checking in and want to see what's going on, see what's going on. Watch for a little bit and see if you're not at least entertained, but maybe gain some knowledge along the way. Now, in the last video, working on Fangled, I try to stress the idea of test fit, test fit, test fit. Right, I got my little T-shirt sitting over there. You can kind of see it. And part of this process of fitting parts together is understanding the end result. So whenever you're putting something together and you're going down one path, you need to see what relates to that in different directions. And this is true with a lot of things. Even if you're working on a house or anything like that, you need to understand, hey, should I put an outlet here or is it going to be behind a door type of situation? So when doing these kind of cars, I try to think, I don't know, 3 to 5 steps ahead of the process. That's like I ran into the problems with that rear caliper on the left rear axle. And I talked with Sal at TCI and we worked something out to fix that. I've had issues with the headers that TCI builds for these cars for this purpose, for putting in a Coyote engine. And I'm beginning to think that there's always problems with manufacturing. So one of the things I'm running into with the header on the car is how it fits the car, like the engine itself. Not so much the car, but the engine and transmission. And I point this out in the video. When I'm trying to work on the shift linkage and the header is touching the shift arm, well, that's not how it should be. And I mean, I get it. They built this in a certain time period, but there's also the understanding of why is it doing this. Part 2 of that is, I'm gonna make a little video for Sal. I've been messaging. We called each other and we've talked, and I'm gonna make a little video for him because the headers don't even fit up against the engine block all the way without one of the tubes actually hitting the bolt on the bell housing for the transmission. I just noticed that after I made the video. I was like, why is this not moving any further? I took the shifter arm and moved it, and I was pushing it up, and I was like looking and looking, and I found it, that it was hitting the bell housing bolt. So in my mind, if this was built to fit the Coyote engine, it shouldn't matter what transmission's behind it. It should clear that bell housing. There should be room for that. So kind of what I'm processing through this, and this is the same thing I dealt with Mustangs to Fear whenever they had a problem with their roll bar, and I pointed it out to them. I said, this doesn't fit. And they went back and checked their inventory and realized they're all made wrong. And so they remade those roll bars, that Shelby roll bar for the 69 Mustang. Well, what I'm thinking may be possible is the plate that mounts against the cylinder head. Well, let's put it this way. So it's on the driver's side, it's going to be angled. I know I'm doing this kind of weird because the cylinder head's at an angle. And so whenever the header comes up against it, the plate here, all the tubes come out of this and then go down to the back of the car, let's say. What I'm realizing at this point is that assembly may be built slightly wrong, meaning let's put that plate on a jig and then you put the tubes in, and if those tubes are pushed sideways 1/2 inch, then, and it's welded together, that's now the permanent direction of those tubes. So I'm kind of want to talk to Sal about this and say, look, could it be possible that whoever makes these things, right, wherever, that the jig is slightly off and that tube is now over, the tubes are over further than they should be? What I'm thinking about, the possibility, is actually cutting the tubes, much as I don't want to do this, cutting the tubes where they meet the plate that mounts to the engine and pushing all of the tubes away from that plate, which would swing that collector outboard, and it would create more room, and then all those would have to be welded back together. It's just a thought, but it's something I'm thinking about. So hopefully you saw those videos and you saw the video, what's going on with all that. I think if I remedied that issue alone, that would solve the shifter problem. It would solve the contact against the bell housing, and I don't know that it would matter much with the U-joint for the steering, because there's going to be something that has to be done with that regardless. One of those tubes is probably going to end up getting bent just to help make room. But that's the thing, you know, whenever you start, you may design something that works until it doesn't. Then there's something you need to go back and look and, hey, what's happened here? So anyway, I just want to get that up front as I'm dealing with these issues. So Let's see who's here tonight, and we're gonna welcome everybody, of course, and I encourage everybody uh, again to be involved. So, uh, first one in tonight, excuse me, is Phil Manassery. Manassery, I'm guessing. Good evening, all. Phil from New York. Mustang is looking good. Lots of custom fabrication and research to get it done. You will definitely win. Thank you, Phil. That's my attitude too. I mean, I a lot of people talk about my patience and um, you know I don't know what's the word, intestinal fortitude, but I I I kind of thrive on those processes where I have to think and try to resolve problems. Um, if it was simple, everybody would be doing it, right? And that's the thing. It's not always as simple as they show you on TV. They want to go, oh yeah, this is all we did. We bolted this in. Look at that. It's magic. Magic. Uh, welcome, Phil. Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Evening, Dave. Glad you're here. Rick Stevenson. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rick. I'm going to get my sip of coffee here in just a minute. Glad you're here. Let's see. Ed Cucharella, which Ed is out in California, and I got to hang out with Ed and go for a ride in his ranchero when I was out there visiting, and that was a good time. And I still think about those donuts, Ed. Those donuts are really good. So glad you're here, Ed. Travis Holtman, good evening, all. Let's get some Sunday car chat going. Yes, sir. Travis is one of my top patrons. I appreciate you. Terry Keithley, good stormy Sunday evening, everyone. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. Thank you, Terry, and I hope Betty is doing okay. I mean, I know you're dealing with a lot right now, and hearts and prayers, sir. Currently, it's 69 degrees here in Georgia, but we're going to have a low on Monday of 33 and a low on Tuesday of 29, and then Wednesday of 30 and Thursday of 34. And I hope that's the last we have of the nasty weather coming through. I'm done with that. George Crackle, good evening, or good Sunday evening, everyone. Thumbs up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mikey, good evening, all from sunny South Texas. 95 degrees, going down to 50 degrees in a bit, according to local prognosticators. Throwing big words at me there. Put 8 new pistons in the 289 block this weekend. Peace, Sir Barry. Thank you. And you want to come put some pistons, you can come put, pistons in this 289 I've got sitting over here, 302, whatever. You know what I mean. Come do that. George McFly, good afternoon. Wait a minute. Good evening. Sorry. Good afternoon, all. Atmospheric river time for us. That doesn't sound pleasant. That sounds like a lot of rain, I'm assuming. Roger, Hindsight 67, greetings from next door. Greetings, Raj. Hope all is well. Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, evening all. The Queen is on her way to flooded Hawaii. 84 today, 32 tonight, and 100 by Saturday. Is summer over or just a short appearance from misery season? I think misery season is here to say. Yeah, for you it probably is. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Forgot about the new day last week. Well, I'm glad you're here and you made it, Nandu. Yeah, and this, like I said, I put out some feelers on this. We'll see how it goes. I know as it goes on, like currently I'm seeing 34 people watching, and I know as it gets a little bit later, that number seems to grow. But usually I'm here about an hour or so, and I can't stay on forever. But I do appreciate everybody showing up. Whoops. Steve Reed, hello, Barry and everyone. Hope everyone is doing great. Don't forget to leave Barry a thumbs up. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Rick Stevenson, beware the Ides of March, everyone. Yeah, that's exactly what we're dealing with right now. So I'm going to get my sip. They say March, what comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb, or vice versa. Well, we're right in the middle of it. So it's kind of not happening at the end, or it's right in the middle. Esteban Jones, Ed, 66 Coupe, Arizona, and although 77 TA and a 93 Corvette, all works in progress. That's cool. I like the 77 TA. That's a good choice. 93 Vet. Okay. Yeah, all good choices. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. Welcome. Infidel 3162. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. Troy Justin. I'm watching from the Dallas Fort Worth airport. My plane is delayed, so thanks for the entertainment. Okay, well, maybe you can get a crowd around you to watch while you're there. Oh, here's another update from Ed. 66 Coupe, 77 Trans Am, and 93 Corvette. All works in progress. I'm 78. I'd better get a move on. You know what? Kudos. You get another bell. 78. That's awesome. That's awesome. Keep chugging. And Esteban says Ed is from sunny Arizona. Yep. Stang 95 Bang. Hey Barry, I have outer wheelhouses ordered for my 68 Coupe. I know you did one on Jade, but there's part of the roof attached to that. There's no way to, wait a minute, to it that there's no way to get to. How did you do it? Plus re-weld it. That's a great question. Now, I'm gonna direct you to another video that I did on Mystique. So if you look up the Mystique Mustang series, what I did on that, I put a wheelhouse in, and that wheelhouse was actually not the right dimension. Let me start with that. So I had to modify it. But what I did, and you can do this a couple different ways. One is once you cut out the old wheelhouse, you can drill from the bottom side and break loose the welds for that roof support. It comes down, it's enclosed, and there's a couple flanges inside. So in theory, you could drill up, break those welds loose. The other part of that is on these wheelhouses, when they are built at the factory, the original wheelhouses, they use kind of a press, I don't know how to word it, weld roller. So it's not spot welds. It is a roller that compresses and I guess arcs as it goes through it. So that's why you'll see all those little ribs running across the top. What I did on that Mystique car was I cut that flange off of the original wheelhouse. I cut it off where it met the outer met the inner. So I cut the outer off and left that whole flange there. And I also cut around that piece that is attached to the roof structure. The reason for that, and in this case I had to cut the whole wheelhouse in half to get it to fit right. Now I could put it up in place and weld the perimeter and weld around that piece on top where it meets the roof. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, again, the wheelhouse was too big, but when I put it all together, I put it in and used the quarter panel to hold it to make sure it was in the right spot. And then I went around to the backside of the quarter and attached it with some plug or some welds. So have a look at that video. But the alternative is, again, you're probably going to end up. I mean, I think on Jade, if I remember correctly, I don't know if I did that the same way or if I cut that flange off. I mean, I had to think here a minute. Because you could also cut the flange off, like I was saying, leave it on the inner wheelhouse, and then snake the new one up. Leave the flange there. Don't worry about that thickness. Because when you look at it, you're only talking that much of an extra piece of metal in there. Okay? So if you were to clean that off, make holes in the new wheelhouse flange, just slide it up under, and then you could just weld it like plug welds too. And then that other part I was talking about where you have the flange, if you go underneath, like I was saying, and you break those spot welds loose, you could do it a couple of different ways. One, you could reverse those flanges and bend them out if you wanted to. So when the wheelhouse goes up, now those flanges are exposed and you can weld them from the outside. or you'd have to figure out where the measurement is and drill holes up through your wheelhouse and then weld upward into those pieces. A couple different ways you can approach it. But I think, that gives you some ideas as to how to get there. Okay? I hope that answers your question. But that's a great question. Harry, I've been watching your progress on Fangled, giving me the bug to redo my 67 Cougar. Never knew about Dynacorn until recently, and they have anything and everything. Yeah, they pretty much do. You're right about that. And dig in, get started. Tom Anziano, Eating Berry and Group got my 69 on a rotisserie this weekend and ready to get the undercarriage prep for paint. Forward progress. Excellent. That is good to hear. Karsten Seth Olsen. Good evening, Barry from Denmark. Karsten, it's been a while. Whoops, wait. There you go. Glad you're here. Hope all is well. Terry says Betty's holding her own. God bless. Oh, well, thank you for that, Terry. I know it's rough. Autodynamics. Good work, Barry. Very insightful. There's always another guy doing Cody swaps on the tube. Tinkered Garage. Between both of you, there's a ton of info. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, as I mentioned. Well, thank you for that. As I mentioned, when I talked to Sal, he's like, it's a good thing you're doing this. Because he actually worked, he said, on overhauling. He worked with Chip Foose when he did overhauling. And he told me he worked with them on several projects that they did. And he said, let me tell you, the only car that ever drove away from them working on it for 7 days, whatever it was a 69 Nova. That was the only car that was actually functional when it left their show. Everything else had to get finished up later. So you think about this. As Sal was saying to me, he said he doesn't usually watch YouTube, but he said my videos have been popping up and he's been watching them because they're giving him an angle on stuff that I see wrong that may help him develop better products for his company. Okay. And he also said that many people think or see these TV shows or stuff like that, and they go, oh, well, I can just do X, Y, Z and be done. But the reality is there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of variables that come into play. And so, yeah, I'm trying to put out as much information as I can to make it work for everybody. Rick Stevenson, can you imagine having to submit changes to the engineers every time you want to make a change, like on an aircraft? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. That would be such a hassle. And Sal, he's actually like the designer of most of this stuff. And like I said, I'm going to give him another short video talking about those problems that I found with the header and see what he has to say. Julian, Buckeye Land, 75 degrees today, supposed to be 28 on Tuesday. Yeah, we're going to have that in Georgia, which is not good. Glad you're here. Robert says, had I known you were DFW, I could have run out there on the train. If you are in Terminal D, Whataburger is the best bang for the buck and free drink refills. There you go. Endorsement for Whataburger. And Robert says, the wheelhouses are welded with the same welder used on gas tanks. That is, thank you for that. Like I said, it's some sort of a roller. It's like a grooved compressive roller. And I'm guessing it arcs as it goes through that process. It's interesting that they did that with the wheelhouses. I guess because it's just a mating flange and it's exposed, easy to do. Kind of like the gas tank. It's got two mating flanges. Just run it through and let it do its thing. Maybe that's the simplest way they could do it with these wheelhouses. And it makes sense. It does. But it's always a hassle whenever you're trying to remove these things or separate them. And I know I've done it. I've gone in there and I've ground out all that metal on earlier versions. And I'm like, I really don't gain much from that. And part of that reasoning, too, is I think it was a light blue Mustang. I think. Um, I remember looking at the wheelhouses and realizing that the support structure that mates to that is, you would think it's going to be consistent, like it's going to be on one side of that flange or on the other side of that flange. And what I ended up finding was it was on, like, inside of that flange on the driver's side, and it was outside of that flange on the passenger side. And so, as they were building these things, there was even that simple little variable just shows you that it's not exact science. Like, it doesn't change much, but when I saw that, I realized I can account for that thickness of that flange. Just leave it. It's structurally sound. It's not like it's going anywhere. And there's that ribbed welding area is even stronger. But taking off that material and then sliding the other wheelhouse up in there, because what I ended up doing, I think on Jade, you could slide where it meets the rocker panel, you can slide it into that pocket and then rotate it up into where the wheelhouse would normally go. And it really makes it pretty simple. Now, of course, as I said with the Mystique Mustang, when I was doing that, the wheelhouse, it was not a Dynacorn part. It was not, I don't even know what it was. It was some generic part. And it was too bulky, like too long or something. And it would not fit. And that's why I ended up taking it and cutting it down to make it fit the car. In fact, I was thinking about this earlier. Somebody had posted on Facebook, and they were working on what appeared to be a 65 or 6 Mustang. And they were talking about the tail panel. And the guy was asking, he had a straight edge on the tail panel. And he said, what can I do to straighten this out? And I was like, no. Don't do that. And I had done a video on Mystique showing that tail panel difference. And so I posted that for him. But, that's the thing whenever you're doing these cars, sometimes you just don't know. Like that tail panel on Mystique, I had bought one from, I don't even know what the company was. It was totally generic. It might have been Spectra or something. I don't remember. And when I went to put it in, I realized it was actually straight, and the trunk lid wouldn't shut. And I had a period of time where I was trying to bow it to make it match the shape of the deck lid. And then I said, nope. I ordered, at that time you could still get original tooling tail panels. And so I ordered one of those and put that in, and it fit perfect. So, there's just these odd sort of things that, people have to learn in the process. Let's see. Stang says, Robert, I watch your videos as well. Just seems extremely confusing and difficult where the roof structure attaches where it doesn't seem possible to get to. Yeah. I mean, you can get there. Like I was saying, sometimes you have to just come in a different angle. Like, it's easy for us to go, well, you need to drill here, here, and here. You can identify the spot welds. I mean, they're underneath. You take a sanding disc, open up, sand it a little bit, and you'll see the ring. And then what I normally do is take like a 1/2-inch drill bit, and I don't try to drill through. I just try to drill a big recess, and then take a body separation tool that I use. Just tap in there, and that thing will pop right off. But you got to separate the wheelhouse from that piece. So keep that in mind. Dave Conville, good evening. Forgot all about the Sunday switch. Glad you're here, Dave. I hope all is well. Steve, hey, on Sunday? Yeah. I decided to try doing Sundays. I've had, people like yourself. You're out in California, and I have had people tell me that on Mondays they're still at work when I'm doing this live stream. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to switch it to Sundays and see how it goes. So I'm glad you're here, Steve. And special shout out. I really, really thank you for the trip we did to the hot rod shop and all that stuff. I really did enjoy that. So thanks, appreciate it. So Stang, I've been really enjoying watching that kid Anthony doing his fastback conversion. I saw your cameo on his channel, and really love seeing young kids getting into this hobby. Yes, and that was, I talked to him about an hour and a half one day. I mean, we talked for a long time, and I was trying to give him advice, and trying to encourage him. I think his latest video, he did something where he took the radiator support back off, core support, and I was like, no, no, no. To me, it didn't. What he was doing didn't make sense to me. But if it made him happy, I don't know. But it was not the way I would approach what he was doing. Robert, once you get it apart, you can see it. Hard to explain. Yeah. Well, like I said, I show it in, some of it in both those videos. Steve, this works for me. Thanks. Cool. Well, good to hear. Carson, yes, I haven't touched my cars for a while. My Buick Riviera has a problem with oil pressure, so I took the engine out and gave it a total overhaul. I'm trying to remember, Carson. Weren't we talking at one time about a starter for the Buick? I think. Trying to remember. Okay, I do have something I want to bring up. And as I was going through the pieces and parts for Fangled, and I'm looking for opinions, or maybe somebody has used one of these. We have the Quick 6 controller for the transmission. Now it's a 6R80 transmission, and the Quick 6 controller is what was recommended, from my understanding, by Holley. It's been brought to the owner's attention from, I think it was Power by the Hour, that it may not be the best. There's maybe some glitches or some issues with that controller. So I'm asking if anybody has used that Quick 6 controller and they can give any input on that. Because it's a gray area. We don't know for sure. I mean, I haven't messed with that stuff. I know the owner hasn't messed with that stuff. So we're trying to get some outsider information or input. So just let me know. Leave a comment here, or if you watch this video later, leave a comment in the video on the comment section about whether you've used one of these and whether you've had any problems with it. We're using the Holley Terminator X Max system, and it doesn't have a transmission controller. They're not made for that. So you have to add this secondary controller. And like I said, Quick 6 was apparently recommended by Holley. So any input on that would be great. That would be great. Okay. Some of the other things that we're dealing with the build, with the Fangled car, is stuff like hose connections I talked about, the upper radiator hose, and you need a billet adapter. In fact, hold on just a second. I have a box that I haven't opened yet. So I'll open up this box. And I wanted to see what this stuff looked like anyway. There it is. So the factory has a quick disconnect or quick connect hose that goes on the top of, like, the water pump, let's say, in that area. And so Power by the Hour makes this adapter. And what it does, you can maybe see it. I'm not going to cut it open yet. It's got that spring, it's got the spring retainer on it where you slide it on and then the spring locks it in. But this allows you to connect a regular radiator hose. So that's a plus. And then they also have these, which are the billet adapters, so where you can connect a regular water hose for your heater. The factory engine has two of these, but they're a little bit different. They have a quick disconnect on them, and then the taller one, I think it is, has a separate T fitting, so it actually adds another hose to it. So I think that's a big plus there. And then the other thing we got was a thermal bypass valve. So this will go in the transmission. And my understanding is that the Mustang, the cars didn't have a need for this, but the trucks, because they had the extra cooling stuff or extra heat exchanger stuff, when you basically remove that sort of thing, you need to have this bypass valve. So we have that, and then along with that, there is a new filter kit, because while you open it up, go ahead and take care of that filter. And then there's a variety of other pieces and parts in here. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at all this. Obviously, I just opened it up. There's some sealing tubes and different rubber parts. So I have to look and see what those do. But I'm really happy to have those, the bypass valve, and as I said, these billet adapters, because you connect a regular water hose to that, and that takes care of a couple of those problems that we're going to have. Still looking into the radiator idea as to whether it's going to make if it's going to work to use a long hose on the driver's side it has to go underneath over to the passenger side. As I mentioned in the video, maybe I'll look at maybe I could use that radiator on one of my cars, and maybe I'll buy another radiator that's the same company that'll fit and have the water necks on opposite sides. So undecided at the moment, but we're going to look into that and see what we can do. But I think the biggest hurdle right now is the header, as I said, fighting with the shift linkage. I've looked at a variety of options. Apparently, the factory Mustang shifter is inverse, meaning the low car shifter works from the back. The cable comes out the back and loops around on the side, which is pretty simple. The factory Mustang shifter in later model cars, it worked forward and it went up the crankcase and then came back in from the front. Can't do that with a shifter. You can't turn it around. You can't make it work, a different way. So I saw that there's brackets you can buy that attach further ahead, and you'd have to use a really long cable and different things like that. There's also another one out there where you can use like a more kind of like a factory shifter, but it takes away from the way the low car works with the electronic controller. So there's other options out there, but I really feel like if I can get that header moved out, even if it's just even half an inch, maybe an inch if I can, it's going to make a huge difference. And the thing is, as I was saying earlier, those header tubes, an inch at the back is probably only a quarter inch at the top. By the time you do the math there, it's not going to take much to get it to swing out. But I'm going to look into it a little harder. And like I said, I'm going to talk to Sal about it and see maybe because Sal had sent me pictures of other transmissions. And I don't know if they've actually mocked up one of these engines with that header they sell. So I'm gonna push it to Sal and say, hey, take a look at this and tell me what you think. Carson says, yes, had a problem with my starter with it. Was my Mustang. Okay. I remember something about a starter, but I'm glad you're here, Carson. Robert, I like those quick connect hoses when they are brand new. When they are old and dirty, I don't trust them to click into place again and not leak. Yeah, and with this system, because of the way they built that um, multi-necked fitting, there's really no way around it. Like this is the only thing that's going to connect to that, uh, unless they built some other contraption that would allow for a regular hose. So this is a good step forward. Um, what else was there? I'm working on yeah, the gas pedal. Talked about that, and I know that Mustangs to Fear sells a bracket, so we're gonna look at that and see if that makes sense. I'm gonna look at that bracket. I've got pictures of it, um, and that may come a little bit later. Well, it's not critical at the moment because I know the training tunnel is going to be a priority as we get through this stuff. So I think once I figure out the shift linkage, and then I can focus back on the tranny tunnel itself, which I have a friend who does metal work, and we're probably going to fabricate our own tunnel, or try to get that taken care of. Then that'll give me a more precise space for that pedal. And I know that the Mustang pedal is the answer. You can't use the truck pedal; it just won't work. Carson says, "Good night. I better get some sleep. I have to go to work in 4 hours." Yee. Well, glad you're here, Carson, from Denmark. That's pretty cool. Have a good night. So, other things that I've been considering. I haven't decided yet on the core support. I know I like being able to take it out, and I've been trying to envision it in different ways as to how I can make it possibly removable, or if it makes sense to make it removable. I talked about this before. The core support is the strongest point is at the bottom, where it meets the frame rails. The upper portion where it meets the aprons, it's really just there to create a space for the radiator. That's all it does. There's very little structural gain from that cross piece. I'm not saying we don't need it. You need it for the radiator and the bracket for the hood latch and all that sort of thing. But I'm just kind of trying to envision how I can make it to where it looks right and it fits right and it does what it's supposed to do. It might be that not the whole thing would be removable. We don't want that. The bottom's going to get welded in for sure. And it may be that center section becomes something different. I don't know yet, but it's something I'm looking at. But just haven't gotten quite that far. Also, I should have put a picture of this up. So you know that on my 69 Mach 1, that I'll have to mail this picture. Wait a minute. Let me see if that's a good one. Okay, here we go. So I've had, I have the Magnum 500 wheels had them on my 69 Mach 1. And those have been, I didn't check the dates on those things, but the other day a couple of weeks ago, I was in the paint booth area where I have the car sitting, and I noticed that something didn't look right. Let me see if I can get these pictures downloaded. The wheels were, I had them stacked up in the corner, and I had some boxes up on top of those. And so, it's taking a second to load. I started looking at the one wheel at the bottom, and it was looking pretty scary. There we go. It's taking a second. I get it. Everything has to bounce around the computer world for a minute. Let's see if I can get this one to go. And So I did uh, a little Instagram on it. I wanted to show what happens if tires are old. And hold on, I almost have it. So check this out. That is one of the tires that was on the Cobra Jet. I mean, the 69 Mach 1. I use those tires to uh, deliver that car down to Florida. And I knew that on the side, one of them didn't look good. I knew it was um, having some issues. But look at this. I saw that, and it scared me, to be honest, because I have had when I was younger at Dad's junkyard, I had a tire explode in my face, um, and it was pretty scary. And so you started looking at that and realized that the bands were broken, and that gator flap was coming loose, and I was like, I got to do something with this. So you got to pay attention to the dates on tires, um, and also where they've been. If you let them out sit out in the sun and the sun breaks them down, typically if you have something that's stored inside, and it's not in a uh, exterior environment, but man, that thing was just it's just scary. And of course, I would not have even driven or planned to drive this car with those tires on it. I want to put new ones on, obviously. But wow, that's. And then I had other people tell me they had the same thing happen with. We're just sitting there, you know, just same situation, but it actually exploded on their car while it was sitting in storage. Tom, I noticed that you don't prime or protect bare metal after you finish working on it. Um, Typically, I don't need to. Like, I don't really have rust issues here. I know we've got humidity and everything, but rust in most cases is initiated by like your hands. So if you have oils and stuff on your hands, and you're touching panels, then you can get surface rust to start. Um, but I've had panels sit here for literally years with just raw metal, and they don't rust. So I don't really worry about it. Now, typically what I'll do if I'm going to be addressing it, I will use an epoxy. Like I'm going to strip all the weld-through primer off of the exterior of the Fangled Fastback, and it'll get epoxy primer on it, just to lock it all down. But I don't I don't make an effort like short term because it just doesn't matter. It's not going to rust. I've had good luck with that here in the garage. David says, imagine that tire at 60 miles an hour. Yeah, that would be scary. Yes. George McFly, any movement on the Goofy Hood stripe delete Mach 1? No, not yet. I am planning a trip to Pennsylvania next month. Like, we're going to go up for probably a week, spend time with my mom and my wife's parents too. And that's where it's at. It's close to where they live. So I will make every effort to go look at the car and get a close up of it. But right now, in my opinion, he wants a little too much money for it, for what it's going to need and what I feel like I would have to do to it to make it more sellable. Let's say, you know, that gauge is really weird, or the dash is really crazy. The striping, the little bump door strips on the sides, just is very unappealing. So I'll look at it and try to get information on it and see maybe if maybe he does something better on price, but right now I don't think it's going to happen. Dawn's Manufactory, hello from soggy Portland, Oregon. Glad you're here, Dawn. I didn't know if you knew that I had switched over to Sundays. Dawn says I had a tread separation on my van left front while towing the boat. Ended up driving home slowly. Yeah. Yeah. Tires, I mean, we take them for granted now. You think back, old tires, old bias ply tires, that you could run those things like forever. The old bias ply tires were tougher than anything out there. And then we went to the radial generation, and we had an issue back in I don't forget what year it was, in the 2000s, where Firestone was having those tires just come apart on all these people and cause them to crash. So we take it for granted, the tires. A lot of times we just think, oh, it's still holding air, we're good. So Robert, I don't mind leaving parts bare for a while, but I'll resand right before primer or powder coat. I have stuff I blasted years ago look almost fresh. Yeah. I mean, I'll go over it. I'll make sure I sand everything down. But I haven't had any real rust issues. The thing too, we think about rust. To me, there's like what we call surface rust, right? Which is just that. It's just on the surface of metal. It's not. It's actually metal trying to protect itself, is what it is. But then the real rust is your pits. That's where you have, a lot of times, it's parts that are layered together, flanges, stuff like that, where moisture gets in between or salts, and it just sits there and eats away at itself. That's the real issue. A little bit of surface rust, not a big concern. Sand that off, prep it, spray it with some epoxy or whatever, and it's good to go. But I know we're all apprehensive because we know that these cars rust. They were rusting the day they left the factory because they didn't put, like in the cowl, any paint or primer that got in there was by accident. They didn't plan anything. They just sprayed it, and if it got paint in there, great. So you look at that, a variety of areas where it just never had anything. And like I said, it was rusting from when it left the factory. The inside of the frame rails, the torque boxes, all that stuff. It was just put it together, hopefully get some paint on it or primer. And now we're all very protective of these things because we know what it did in the past. George Burns, I need rollers for my 66 build. I went to a local independent tire store and he gave me 4 brand new tires are out of date. He charged me a minimal fee to mount them. That was all. Well, that's cool. He was happy to get rid of them because he knew he couldn't use them. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. The opportunity to use stuff like that for just roll-arounds. Robert, I keep the humidity low in the shop, and dew condensation doesn't happen as it will almost never get below the dew point here. Yeah. I just haven't really ever had issue with it in the garage. And I've had stuff sit for years and not had a problem. Robert, I've given up finding 14 or 15-inch used tires for just holding cars up as they don't exist anymore. Yeah, I still have some, but they don't last, That's why whenever I bought the Falcon, I had gone to their house and they had a bunch of pieces and parts, stuff. And they had a set of universal wheels. They had a Chevy pattern and a Ford pattern. And they were basically like Chevy rally wheels. And they had good tires on them. And they had them sitting outside along with a pair of Falcon wheels that were old and rusty and crusty. And I was like, do those go with it? And they were like, yep, take that too. Oh, yes. So that's what's actually holding up the front of the Falcon is those rally wheels that are like Camaro, Corvette style rally wheels, but with a forward lug pattern. And I'm glad I grabbed them because the tires were like new. I don't know how old they are. I don't really care as long as they hold air and keep the car mobile. But yeah, it's hard to find good stuff like that anymore. Um, and I think as far as the 15-inch tires, new BF Goodrich may be the only one that still makes a 15-inch tire. I mean, I haven't researched it, but that's what's going to go. It has to go on. If I'm using those Magnum wheels, I don't have a choice. It's 15 inch. You're not going to change that, and so that's something I'll have to look at uh, further down the road. Not right now, by any means. So just something to think about later. I think what was there anything else in particular that I was going to talk about? I don't think I have much else going on. If you know anybody that wants a Merc Cruiser 3.7 liter 4-cylinder engine, let me know. I would like to sell that and get it out of here. I know Dave Conville wants to put it in a Model A. So Dave, let me know. I'll bring it to you. I'll deliver it up to New Jersey. But I don't want it here. I don't need it here anymore. It's taking up space. I need it to go away. But yeah, I think that's probably where we're going to end up tonight. Let's see. Wait. Robert says if I want to keep the Monte SS wheels on the El Camino, Pirelli is the only one making that size now, and they're around $200 each. Oh, that's a bit much. Richland Restorations. Cooper still makes 15-inch Cobra. Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Okay, it's been an hour, and I've basically run out of things that I need to talk about. So I'm going to call it a night. I do appreciate everybody being here. I know it's Sunday, and we're going to hopefully get more people showing up while I do this. And as I said, next probably about 3 weeks, we'll be making a road trip to go see my mom and stuff. I may try to do a live stream from Pennsylvania on my phone if I can do it. I'm going to see if I can pull that off. So it might be a whole different venue, but we'll see what happens. So that'll be it for tonight. I want to thank everybody again for being here. Keep watching the videos, comments, thumbs up, all that stuff helps. But that'll be it for tonight. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.